Well, hello and welcome to Hump Day. Yeah, I am glad that it is Hump Day. Get over today, and I have 2 days left. Our lesson today, we're going to continue with this series, and thank you so much for the feedback that I have received about this series, mental wellness. Some of you say mental illness, or we can say the Bible and mental illness, or however you want. But I appreciate your feedback and knowing that you are gathering information from this. In fact, one of you said to me, I didn't realize the people in Bible times had mental illness. Well, yes, they did. We see it as sinfulness, or the devil made them do it, or what have you. But they suffer with mental illness or emotional illness the same as we do. Our lesson today is a great lesson. I almost, and the operative word there is almost let go. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about just letting go, giving up? What did we say? Throwing the towel on a situation? You want to give up on people you thought you could trust? How about what that song say? Water bill due, gas bill too, telephone disconnect. You waiting for your next paycheck. You tell somebody a secret, and before you know it, it's all over the church, all out in the street, over the neighborhood. Perhaps you thought about giving up on your job. Your job just makes you want to give up. But as I said, the operative word is I almost let go. You know, there's a song that said, I almost let go. I felt like I couldn't take life anymore. My problems had me bound. Depression weighed me down. But, that's the key word, but God held me close so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me. Woo, thank God for mercy. So I wouldn't let go. I almost gave up. I was right at the edge of a breakthrough, but I couldn't see it. The devil really had me. But Jesus came and grabbed me, and he held me close so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me so I wouldn't let go. Well, that's our lesson for today. I almost let go. And you know, I felt that way once. My job laid me off. I looked for a job. I got in my car. I drove home. And I should have been thankful. The car, I hadn't had any problems with my car, but it got me home. And when it got me home, it stopped. I parked the car. It said, I'm out of here. It stopped. I was laid off from work so long, I felt like, I'll get a job. But after they kept saying, you overqualified for this, or you overqualified for this, well, you don't have enough qualifications for this. And there I was. Now, you know I love Pepsi. Yeah, you see a bottle of water here, but I love Pepsi. Anybody that know me know I love Pepsi. and I couldn't even afford a Pepsi. Now, if I said I couldn't afford a Pepsi today, I'm working and look like I still can't afford a Pepsi because Pepsi is about, what, $2 a bottle, something like that, $1.50. But Pepsi's was 25 cents. And my mother had to buy me a Pepsi. I think that was the day that I thought, oh, this is the end. I should be buying my mother a Pepsi, and she has to buy me a Pepsi because I don't have a quarter to buy a Pepsi. So I almost let go. I got depressed. I will admit I got depressed. And depression is common, but a serious mood disorder. That's what depression is. Depression is a mood disorder. It causes severe symptoms that can affect a person's feelings, thinking, how they handle daily activities such as sleeping, eating, or even working. To be diagnosed with depression, the symptoms have to be present for about 2 weeks. Now, you know, when we get a little stressed and we feel unhappy, we say, I'm depressed. But depression is a mood serious. Let me throw that word serious in there. Serious mood disorder. And the symptoms hang on to you for at least 2 weeks. There is the persistent depressive disorder. There is the disorder that's usually affects pregnant women. They can be symptoms of disorder during the pregnancy, after the pregnancy, disorder when the baby is born. But the one that I found that I didn't know anything about until several years ago was seasonal disorder. Do you know some people from December to May are depressed? They are depressed. It's called seasonal disorder. And I did not know this until I went to a wake for a good friend of mine. I call her my daughter. I'm not going to call her name because I'm not getting ready to let you know her business. But her mother, she told me, she said the whole time I've known my mother, she said she had seasonal depression. I said, what is that? She said from December to May, she suffered from depression. And so people with bipolar disorder, that is formerly known as manic depression, they suffer from depression. I was listening to a CD this morning on my way into work, and I love some Phyllis Hyman. And I just thought she was beautiful. She was talented. The woman could sing. Yeah, she could sing. But she was always depressed. Always depressed. And I thought, well, how could you be depressed? You're pretty, you got talent, you can sing, you make money, and all. And eventually she killed herself. Depression. So who gets depressed? Almost anybody It doesn't matter about your age, your race, your gender, what race you belong to. Women are diagnosed with depression more so than men. And that's not to say that men don't get depressed. You know, men are not, we women, we tell somebody, girl, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just down in the dumps. I'm depressed. But men don't talk like that. They don't let you know. So, what are the signs and symptoms of depression? Let me give you a few. Persistent sadness, anxious or empty mood, feeling of hopelessness or pessimism, feeling of irritability, frustration, restlessness, feeling of guilt, worthlessness or helplessness, a loss of interest or pleasure in hobbies and activities, fatigue, lack of energy. I'm not talking about you worked hard today and you tired. I'm talking about lack of energy. You get up out of the bed tired. You go to bed tired. You don't sleep at night. Feeling slowed down. Difficulty concentrating. Am I in your neighborhood? Difficulty sleeping. Waking too early in the morning or oversleeping. Changing appetite. Unplanned weight changes. Physical aches or pains. Headaches, cramps, digestive problems without a clear physical cause. Thoughts of death or suicide attempts. Anyone who is depressed experiences all these symptoms. So I'm going to have a point to ponder here. I want you to stop and think. Have you ever had a bout with depression? What caused it? What did you do about it? See, and don't tell me I fell on my knees and prayed. Get up and go to the doctor. Because if you prayed, the Lord probably said, go to the doctor. All right. So let me give you a little background in this lesson. We're going to talk today about Naomi. Naomi. We always talk about Ruth, but we're going to talk about Naomi. And the period of when Naomi, this part of the lesson, it is called the time in which the judges ruled. And they are among the worst in Israel's history, like the period of decline with the ancient Roman Empire. The Israelite nation began to crumble from within. The book of Judges repeatedly states that during this time, everyone did as he saw fit. As each family or group fought for its rights alone, society became fractured. See, this family fighting for what they want, this family fighting for what they want. It became fractured. As we see in America today, each group is fighting for what that individual rights. The Jews for the Jews, Black Lives Matter, homosexualities. Every group is fighting for what they want and not coming together. It causes a fractured society. And America is crumbling today from within. Corrupt politicians. Yeah, I'm going to call this name. I said it last week. I say it again this week. Because if we turn around and elect somebody as crazy as Donald Trump, as evil as Donald Trump, want to keep as much problems going, He doesn't care about everybody in this society. He only cares about him and a few people like him that got a little money. Well, all of us don't have money. So the book of Judges showed us how people went from bad to worse. And the last 5 chapters in the book of Judges give us some of the ugliest stories in the Bible. Tale of homosexual assault, idolatry, civil war, thievery, rape, and murder. No enemy does all of this. The Israelites did it to themselves, and America is doing it to herself. Now, Naomi's story is told in the book of Ruth. But after losing her husband and her 2 sons, Naomi slipped into profound sorrow, quite possibly major depression. And from Naomi, we learn to acknowledge, my sisters and brothers, our mental and emotional health without shame. Now, we as a group of people, cultural people, I know I grew up saying whatever happens in the house stays in the house. Well, guess what? We need to come out and let people know. If we got a problem, don't keep the situation in the house. Get them to the doctor. So from Naomi, we learn to acknowledge our mental and emotional health without shame. Ruth 1:1 says this: long ago, in the day before Israel had a king, there was a famine in the land. So I'm going to ask you, what time is it? It's the time when the judges ruled. Israel had no king, and they constantly, there was a vicious circle. Israel did wrong. God allowed the enemies to come in and to take over and put them up under hard times, slavery, solitude, servitude. And Israel then will come to her senses and call out to the Lord. He sent a judge to lead them against their enemy. And then after things calmed down, they went right back to serving other gods. That's what time it was. Because they had no king. They had no leadership, but God was their leader. What time is it? It was evil days. Days of sinfulness. Days of servitude. Days of sorrow. Days of scarcity. There was a famine in the land. Now, I just find that so unbelievable. A famine in the land. These were turbulent days, troubled days, some of the darkest days in Israel's history. Morally, society collapsed, becoming a cesspool of moral corruption and injustice. Families, societies, and the nation as a whole were gripped by a sinful, evil spirit of lying, stealing, cheating, selfishness, false religion, unbelief, idolatry, immorality, false worship, drunkenness, partying, extreme prejudice and discrimination. I tell you, this sounds like, what's today? It sounds like May, it's the day the 15th, the 15th, 2024. That's what it sounds like. Deception, terrible abuse of human rights by national leaders. Don't tell me it doesn't sound like today. Ruth 1, 2-5, verses 2 through 5. So a man named Elimelech, who belonged to the clan of Ephraim, and who lived in Bethlehem in Judah, went with his wife Naomi and their 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, to live for a while in the country of Moab. While they were living there, Elimelech died. Oh, well, you had no business leaving Bethlehem, Judah, and going to Moab. He died. And Naomi was left alone with her 2 sons. But she got 2 sons, so she's still looking all right. But these 2 sons married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. About 10 years later, Mahlon and Chilion also died. And Naomi was left all alone without husband or son. Now you know that when a woman didn't have a son or a husband, had only a daughter or daughters-in-law, she was in a bad situation. Now, you know, there used to be on television a show called Desperate Housewives. Well, Naomi is the original Desperate Housewife. Desperate means having lost hope, moved by despair, involving or imploring extreme measures in an attempt to escape defeat or frustration. Well, how did she become desperate? I'm glad you asked. Because Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, now check it out, his name Elimelech means God is my king, or the king is my God. Well, wait a minute. If a famine, and let me tell you, a famine can come in Bethlehem, and Bethlehem means a house of bread. Bethlehem could have you could have a shortage of bread in the house of bread. Now let me say this, that even in the church, that we can have a time when people hunger for the Word of God. And because there became a shortage of bread in Bethlehem, Judah. Now let me say this. Bethlehem means house of bread. Judah meant land of praise. Now look how serious this is. In the house of bread, land of praise, now they suffer from want. And many of our churches today, that's the house of bread, in the land of praise, suffer from want. We need to hear a word from the Lord. But what does God is my king does? Elimelech, he leaves the house of bread, the land of praise, and he goes to Moab. And the Bible tells us, Genesis 19:30-38, you need to read it, that Elimelech went to a place that God called a garbage can. Now, what did I look like leaving the house of bread to go eat out of the garbage can or drink from a scrub bucket? Because that's what God feels. Look at Psalms 108 and verse 9. Moab is a scrub bucket. I mop the floor with Moab. Shortage of bread means shortage of money, shortage of food, spiritual hunger. Because if you remember, all you got to do is go over to Luke chapter 15 and remember reading about the prodigal son? When he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in the land, and he began to be in want. Now, so Naomi even admit that she was depressed, because when she just heard about God had visited the house of Bethlehem, or the house of bread, that he had been kind to Bethlehem, and they now had food, she said, I'm going to go home. But when she got home, they said, oh, is that Naomi? She said, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara. Naomi meant pleasant. I'm no longer pleasant. The Lord has dealt harsh with me. The woman is depressed. She's depressed. She had lost her home. She had lost the money that they may have had. Her husband died. Her 2 sons died. And now she got a daughter-in-law, because the other ones decided to take Naomi's advice, and she stayed in her own land. But Ruth went with her, and she said, don't call me Naomi, because the Lord has dealt harsh with me. So Naomi knows what it is to have a shortage of money, shortage of food, spiritual hunger. And she was desperate because of severe losses. Desperate because she had no support base. If you look at the name Naomi, and if you spell it backwards, Imoan, her name says I mourn. And that's what's wrong. Naomi is depressed. I almost gave up. She almost gave up. But the Lord held her close so she wouldn't let go. Now just let me quickly go through this, because I can see my time is up. No, it ain't up. No, I got some time. Hey. Because you see, Naomi was desperate, but she could always go home. And that's what we need to realize, is that we can be desperate, but we can always go home, or I should say, we can go to a doctor. We don't have to sit and be depressed. She could return home. I couldn't help but remember a song that they used to sing in old school church. Where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go seeking a refuge for my soul? And that's where we can go. Naomi Ammon said, the Lord Almighty has condemned me and sent me trouble. Don't call me pleasant. But when your back is up against the wall, God can always and will always come through for you. So, and in fact, she was desperate, but she could return home. Did I say that? I said that. But let me also now take you back again to Luke chapter 15, when the prodigal son, verse 17 and verse 18, lets us know that when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father's house. And that's what Naomi said. She said, I'm going to go back home. When she heard, she didn't see, she heard, just like this boy, he knew that the servants in his father's house had enough to eat. So he said, shh, I'm going to go home. And Naomi, when she heard that God had visited Bethlehem and now it was over, she went home. She told her two daughters-in-law, I suggest you stay. Here's what it said. She said, Naomi, make it possible for each of you to marry again. So Naomi kissed them goodbye, but they started crying and said to her, no, we will go with you to your people. You must go back, my daughters, Naomi answered. Why do you want to come with me? Do you think I could have sons again for you to marry? Go back home, for I am too old to get married again. Even if I thought there was still hope, and so got married tonight and had sons, would you wait until they had grown up? Would this keep you from marrying someone else? She said, no, my daughters, you know that's impossible. The Lord has turned against me, and I feel very sorry for you. Again, they started crying. Then Orpha kissed her mother-in-law goodbye and went back home. Let me just say, many will start out with you, but they will leave you. But Ruth answered, don't ask me to leave you. Let me go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die. and this is where I will be buried. And then she sealed it with this promise. May the Lord's worst punishment come upon me if I let anything but death separate me from you. When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said nothing. She said nothing more. They went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived, the whole town became excited. And the women there exclaimed, "Is this really Naomi?" They were all excited to see her. She said, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, because Almighty God has made my life better. When I left here, I had plenty, but the Lord has brought me back without a thing. Why call me Naomi when the Lord Almighty has condemned me and sent me trouble?" This then was how Naomi came back from Moab with Ruth, her Moabite daughter-in-law. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the barley harvest was just beginning. As I told you, she was desperate, but she could return home. Desperate, but she remained faithful in all her trials. Desperate, but a woman of great faith who withstood almost unimaginable testing without once ever wavering in her love for God. Not once did she become bitter with God. Not once did she become angry with God. Now, let me give you some lessons that we could learn from this. A famine in the land or a famine in the church may be seen as a checkup on our faith. 1 Peter 1, 6 and 7 said, "Be glad about this, even though it may now be necessary for you to be sad for a while because of the many kinds of trials you suffer. Their purpose is to prove." Now, I want you to hear this, because your trials come only to make you strong. And Peter says their purpose is to prove that your faith is genuine. Trials come only to prove your faith is genuine. You can say you have faith all you want to, and I couldn't tell it until the trials come. Even gold, he said, which can be destroyed, is tested by fire. And so your faith, which is much more precious than gold, must also be tested so that it may endure. Now, let me say this. Gold is put in the fire, and is put in the fire to burn out, or to burn out all the impurities that is still in gold. You remember the song, "Please Be Patient with Me"? God is not through with me yet. When God gets through with me, I will come out as pure gold. Well, guess what? The impurities have to be gotten out. And God puts us in the fire to burn out your impurities, such as jealousy, backbiting, anger, bitterness, envy, worry, to burn those out, to get that out of you, so your faith can become pure like gold. Again, God gives us problems, because a chastisement could be for our failures. The Lord corrects everyone. Here's what Hebrews 12:6 said. The Lord corrects everyone he loves and punishes everyone he accepts as a child. Now, in my day and age, the people, somebody else give you a whipping, and if they did, they told your mama you got another one. Nowadays, we don't want nobody don't put your hands on my child. We don't want nobody can whip our child. But child rearing is for the future. And check it out. You don't whip on other people's children. You whip your own children. Why do you think God whip us? He only whips his children. He does not try to keep you from acting a fool. He said, that's not my child. And so, don't allow bitterness to make you lose a blessing. And that's what Naomi did. She didn't allow her bitterness, or she didn't become so bitter that she nearly lost a blessing. No, she didn't do that. Now, because we see she was blessed by Ruth. She was blessed through Ruth. She was blessed to have Boaz to provide for them. See, and many times we take our blessings lightly. She was blessed to have Boaz provide for them, blessed to see Boaz marry Ruth, blessed to receive a son. And as you remember, Boaz, his mother was Rahab. And so Boaz was able to redeem them. He was the only he wasn't the only, let me correct that. There was another one who was closer. You can have a kinsman redeemer to get you out of trouble, to redeem you. But two things. The kinsman redeemer had to be able, and had to be willing. The other kinsman redeemer was able, but he wasn't willing. Boaz was able and willing, and he reminds us of our kinsman redeemer, who was able and willing. So when you feel like that you want to let go, remember, God can hold you close so you won't let go. God's mercy will keep you so you won't let go. I'm here today because God kept me. I'm alive today only because of His grace. He kept me. God kept me. In case you wondering who He is, God kept me so I wouldn't let go. I almost let go. I felt like I couldn't take life anymore. Depression weighed me down. My problems had me bound, but God held me close so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me so I wouldn't let go. Well, that's our lesson for the day. I almost, and that's the key word I want you to remember, I almost let go. Well, we're not going to be like Naomi and tell you go back to your father's house, your mama's house, or whatever house you come from. If you don't know the Lord for yourself, I invite you now to get to know Him. Come and go with us, the St. Stephen Church. We are on our way to glory land. We're on our way home, like Naomi went back home. We're on our way back home, and this world is not our home. So if you want to join this church, all you got to do is just let us know. Call us at 502-583-6798 and leave a message. Said, I want to join St. Stephen. Have somebody please call me. And a decision counselor will call you. Or you can send a email to New Start at ssclive.org. And again, someone will get in touch with you. You don't have to walk by yourself. You don't have to let go. Come and go with us. Where we're going, I'm on my way to the Father's house. That's where we're going. So join us next week when we talk about a touch. Just a touch. I don't think at times we realize how important a touch is. We can touch with words. We can just do a physical touch, pet somebody. Maybe you don't know what to say. You just pet them. And sometimes a touch can say more than what you want to say. So tune in to us next week, and we will find that this woman we're going to talk about next week, she was depressed. Yes, she was. She had to be depressed. She couldn't go. She had a bleeding problem. She couldn't go to church. Her family had left her. Tune in next week and we'll talk about that. I'll see you next week. Be blessed.